process for 3 to 5 minutes. So do what you wish for 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Board Member Bala,
Here.
Board Member Guyona,
Here.
Board Member Showalter, Board Member Showalter. Go back to her. Board Member Abdul Rahman. Board Member Abdul Rahman, he shows that he's on.
Amy, I believe you're muted right now. So there we go.
Okay.
Yes, we got you now. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Board Member Showalter, are you there?
Can you show her box?
Yeah, she's right here.
So Julie, it looks like you're muted currently. Can you unmute? Having trouble?
She might. Board Member Showalter, are you present? She shows.
She shows.
And Chair Madrano is absent. Vice Chair Seymour,
Here.
we do have a quorum.
Good. We'll move along and when Julie gets back in, we'll be good. Let's go forward. Jason, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Here we go. All right, so I'm on slide 6. So slide 6 overlays our current forecast along with the prior 2 versions, and this is assuming that the rate proposal takes effect as planned. And again, we already talked about that significant drop in 22. So let's move to slide 7.
Yeah, before you go to slide 7, I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, I just wanna make sure I do understand exactly about this chart. Here you have proposed increase is not implemented. Then you have proposed increase is delayed by 1 year, and then you have another one which is with proposed increase. What does it mean? Increase is delayed by 1 year.
Okay, good question. That means that the rates that we're proposing today wouldn't actually take effect until this time next year. So, well, instead of being in February of 2021, they wouldn't take effect until February of 22. And all rates would be shifted by 1 year. So nothing would happen for the next 12 months.
Therefore,
And you slide it back one slide, please? So we can all look at it. So one of our rates has a compounding effect. One of our rates is the water system reliability adjustment. It can only go up by 7.5 cents in any given year. If you don't increase it and you delay a year, you compound it. So let's say you started a baseline of 0 and you don't increase it, you increase it 7.5 cents in scenario 1, but you don't increase it, you're always behind, right? So you have a compounding effect. You see how that blue area gets bigger? So one of the issues is we can't ever catch up because we are limited how much we can increase that rate in any given year. So every year we wait, that means you then forego that amount of revenue every year.
that means this chart as if we are not applying any increase. This
For
is
1
by
year.
this time. For 1 year, okay.
Yeah,
Because
the
here-
dark blue is no increase at all. We don't do the increase. The
Right.
light blue is we wait a year, and the hash is we go forward with the proposed rate change as stated in the hearing notice.
But
So you can see the long-term impact of even a delay.
even if you go with the proposed increase in 2026, it's still below the target days cash, right?
That's
Just
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and actually by 2030, we're out of cash again. It would be 0.
Okay.
If you had no increase this year.
Right.
Okay then. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Okay, can we move on to slide 7, please? So as I mentioned, since the onset of the pandemic, we've been doing what we can, putting measures in place to help our customers and to reduce cost, conserve cash. And since then, we've also done additional measures. You know, our budget reduction, proposing less than what we had originally planned on. The city's accelerated separation program is a more recent development, and the utility alone will lose 27 employees to the accelerated separation program. Now, even though that presents a significant operational challenge by having those employees gone, it kind of reflects the time that we're in, unfortunately. But it also reflects the utility's commitment to maintaining as low a cost as possible. And therefore the utility likely won't fill the majority of those positions until things improve a little bit. We're constantly trying to leverage the Linane treatment plant to full capacity so that we can purchase untreated water instead of more expensive treated water. And we're deferring several capital projects and equipment purchases in order to try to conserve some of that cash. Now, unfortunately, those investments will still have to be made at some point, and down the road it becomes more expensive than it is today. But again, that's the time that we're living in, and those efforts are intended to conserve cash, reduce costs as much as we can, so that we can limit the impact on customers' bills as much as possible right now. If we can move on to slide 8. So with those efforts in mind, I wanted to talk a little bit more specifically about the rate actions. And as you're aware, we take a holistic approach to rate design and financial planning. Our goal is to maintain low costs so that we can offer low rates and also provide competitive rates with those around us. But as much as we like to do that, we also have to balance that with the reliability that our customers expect, maintaining that reliability, and obviously ensuring that we maintain compliance with regulatory requirements. Next slide, please. So with those strategies in mind, we're proposing very modest rate increases, or a modest rate increase on the water side that will enable the utility to comply with the state requirements, as well as to maintain some funding for capital. But at the same time, we're also proposing to enhance some bill credits for our customers and do what we can to help them on the billing side as well. If we can advance 2 slides now to slide 11, please. So this is just an overview. You've seen something similar in the past. We have 4 water rate components. We have a customer charge and a base commodity charge that we haven't changed for several years now, and we're not proposing to change them now either. They will remain as they are today. The water commodity adjustment and the water system reliability adjustment are the 2 components that we're proposing rate changes for with this action. And the WCA, again, is to recover the water supply costs. It's solely for that purpose. It's not used for other operating expenses or capital or anything else. The WSRA is used solely for capital purposes. It's not used for the daily operating costs either. We can advance 1 slide, please. I'm on slide 12. So let's talk first about the WCA component. That's the biggest rate change that we're requesting at this time. Now, the increase that we're recommending for the WCA is driven almost solely by the change in the mix of water supply that we talked about earlier. Shifting from low-cost groundwater to much higher-cost imported water creates havoc on the financials, right? It becomes very expensive. So the bar chart that you're looking at on the right-hand side of your screen is based on exactly the same amount of water. The difference is that under normal operations, we're taking about 75% of the water from the ground. Whereas on the right-hand column, the right-hand bar chart, we're taking only about 21% of the water from groundwater, and we have to make up the difference with the expensive imported water. And it creates much higher costs for the utility. So if we can advance this slide. Slide 13 illustrates.
Jason, can you hold on for 1 second?
Oh, sure.
This is John, Jason. If I'm reading those charts right, I would assume that we would not be going for a rate increase this year had we not had the issue with the wells. Is that a correct assumption or not?
Would you like us to go back one slide?
Yes.
Okay, can you go back one slide? So on this chart, Jason,
Yeah, so likely not, but we have to remember as well that we had a similar issue last year. We chipped the iceberg last year, only collecting what we absolutely needed to for the partial year of change last year. So we actually turned off some of those wells last year.
Right.
We've turned off more since then. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you are correct. Even if we were proposing a rate increase, it definitely would not be to this magnitude.
yeah, so the thing I would add to this is our water suppliers continue to increase their costs. So there would have been some operational impact irrespective of the wells being shut off. And so we would have had to make adjustments accordingly. Because we operate so narrowly on our margins that I think it's very difficult for us to keep deferring and delaying. What we're doing this year is instead of taking perhaps the full action that we could, we're relying on reserves to kind of buffer our customers from rate shock. And that's why you're seeing a very small proposal here as opposed to something that could have been much more significant. $15 million difference is very hard to absorb on a budget like ours.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Sure. So on slide 13, you see kind of the pie chart on the left shows what's making up those costs. And then the one on the right illustrates where we're getting that funding. And you can see pretty clearly that what we're asking for doesn't fully cover the cost, right? So we're asking for less than we actually need to fully cover those costs. And like Dooku said, we're making up the difference with cash on hand for the time being in order to kind of mitigate the impact to customers' bills and avoid that rate shock. We can go to the next slide, please. Now, the change in the mix of the water supply is temporary, as you know. Staff is working vigorously to get the groundwater treatment facilities designed and built as fast as we possibly can. But even when we resume pumping, when those facilities are up and running and we resume pumping, there will still be some treatment costs, but we're doing everything we can operationally to try to mitigate that. In addition to the operational strategies that you see listed there, we've also implemented several financial strategies in order to conserve cash and reduce our costs. We're dipping into reserves. We're drawing down rate stabilization just to maintain a minimum level of debt service coverage in an attempt to, try to maintain good credit standing. Next slide, please. So I'm on slide 15 now. This chart illustrates our estimated water supply mix as we work toward getting the groundwater treatment facilities in place and online. We anticipate, as I mentioned earlier, that all of our wells will be back online by the end of fiscal year 2025, with wells coming online in phases up to that point. Now, the chart in the upper right illustrates our changing water resource mix as each phase comes online. So, as an example, phase A would restore about 50% of what we normally pump from groundwater wells. So normally it's right around 75%. It could be less, it could be more, but it's right around 75%. So 50% of that 75 gives us the 38% that you see there. Similarly, phase B would restore about half of the remaining amount, would get us to about 56% of our total water supply. And then by the end of phase C, we would be back to normal, where we could pump the majority of our water, 75+% of our water, from the groundwater wells. And obviously that's contingent upon the Orange County Water District allowing us to pump that much, but we would at least have the capacity to do that, and no reason at this point to believe that we wouldn't be able to pump that much water. Next slide, please. Now, the second component of our proposal is an adjustment to the water system reliability adjustment component. And as Brian mentioned, we are limited to a 7.5 cent increase in any 12-month period. There's never any ability to catch up if we don't take advantage of that 7.5 cent increase. Now, the utility maintains high reliability in part because of continuous maintenance of infrastructure and replacing the old infrastructure before it fails, or when it's about to fail, I should say. Last month, you saw a presentation by Michael. He talked about how Anaheim is measuring up to its reliability benchmark standards. And one of the reasons that we're able to meet those standards and perform so well is because of this ongoing focus on the infrastructure. And the WSRA is a critical component in being able to maintain that reliability because it gives us a modest amount of funding to be able to replace those pipes. And you've heard us say many times that we're trying to get to a 100-year replacement cycle on the water mains. We're not there yet, but we continue to chip away and work toward it so that we can avoid that cliff that you see in the center of the screen, which would be the case if we had to replace all of that infrastructure all at once. One, we wouldn't be able to afford doing that, and two, the entire city would be dug up at the same time. It's just not feasible. So it's really important for us to use this rate component to incrementally provide some funding to get to that 100-year replacement cycle. And, we're not there yet, but we're making modest progress. Next slide, please. Ultimately, this is what it means for our water customers. Now, before we get in too much to the end of it, I want to really highlight the top left table and talk about the WCA. And Dooku mentioned it earlier. I think Brian did as well. Right now, the WCA component, if you look in that top left, the second line down, it says WCA $2.13. That's what our current WCA rate is. Now, our rate schedule actually has a very discrete formula for calculating the WCA. And it calculates, based on today's figures, it calculates that we should be asking for an increase of 29 cents for the WCA to get us to $2.42. But if we were to do that and take 29 cents and add the 7.5 cent WSRA increase, now all of a sudden we'd be asking customers for over a 9% bill increase. And we understand that this is not the time to do that, which is why we're pulling all the strings, trying to figure out how we can minimize what we're asking for. And so what we're doing, actually, if you see in the mitigation column there, you see a negative 15 cents. So we're backing out 15 cents, and we're only asking for a 14-cent increase to get us from $2.13 to $2.27 on the WCA. And that's why you saw a gap a few slides ago in those pie charts. So when we take the 14-cent increase to the WCA plus the 7.5 cent increase to the WSRA, now we result in about a 5.4% increase for a typical residential customer. Now, not only that, but in addition to mitigating the rate increase, we're also going to phase it in. So the WCA would take effect on February 1st, resulting in about a 3.5% bill increase for a typical customer. And the WSRA would take effect on April 3rd, which would be another 1.9%, as you can see in the table on the right. So in total, their bill would increase by about $3.44. And again, this is for a customer that uses about 12,000 gallons per month. It's pretty typical in Anaheim. And that equates to about 5.4%.
Now, Jason, let me just interject right here. It's important for us to note that 15 cents, we will have to recover that over time. We can't just have a structural deficit where we are under collecting by 15 cents every year. So part of our rate strategy over the next 5 years, while we work out the PFAS mitigation, is to slowly reduce that mitigation until it becomes zero over the 5 years. We do not actually plan to, I don't think, have another 15-cent increase next year on top of whatever other increase we may need. We can have that discussion at a later date, but the plan is over time to slowly reduce that amount so that the utility does become whole. We don't then have to have future greater rate increases in the future. And then when we are back to normal operations, you will see a leveling off of the rates instead of big spikes and cliffs of rates. The last thing we want to do is have rates that are jumping up and then falling down over time. It's important to have some level of stability in your rate structure in order to protect our customers' budgets and their pocketbook.
All right, slide 17. So this table illustrates a complete utility bill for a residential customer, just as an example. So it includes their electric charges, their water charges, paramedics, street sweeping, sewer, solid waste. All of that is included on a typical residential bill. So we wanted to give you the big picture. This assumes a customer is using 500 kilowatt hours of electricity and about 12,000 gallons of water during this month. The blue column shows what it is today. Their total bill is $185.96 for all of these utilities. The column highlighted in yellow takes into account our proposed water rate increases, as well as an emergency relief credit that we currently are issuing to customers, to residential electric customers, in an effort to kind of help them during this economic time. So you can see that the all-in bill, even with the rate increase, while we're still offering the emergency bill credit, they would still save about $1.50 compared to what they would pay under normal conditions. Now, the emergency relief credit isn't forever, and when it goes away, then they will see about a $3.44 increase to their bill, which is about 1.8% of their total bill. If we can go to the next slide. Wanted to provide a little bit of additional context to you, just to kind of illustrate how we measure up. So we prepared several bill analysis just to give you an idea. These are actual bills that were issued, in this case by the city of Chino Hills, to a Chino Hills resident. This is a low water user. This covers a period of 31 days, and they used only 11 HCF of water. So their bill was $67.75. Had this customer lived in Anaheim, they would have saved about $20 during this month, which is about a 30% savings. If we go to the next slide, please. This is I'm not saying any names. This is a Garden Grove resident who used 16 HCF, but it was over 2 months. So our typical is over 1 month. This customer used that much water over 2 months, so a pretty low user. And their bill was $84. In Anaheim, it would have been 13% lower. They would have saved about $11 that month. Next slide, please. Now we're looking at a Yorba Linda Water District customer. They used 21 HCF over 28 days, and their bill was about $100. That same amount of usage would have cost them $83 in Anaheim, a savings of about 13%. And then finally, a San Dimas resident who's serviced under the Golden State Water Company. This is a very high water user, almost 42,000 gallons of water over this 2-month period. Their bill was about $300. It would have been $209 in Anaheim. So they would have saved $91 over that 2-month period, which equates to about a 30% savings. Peggy, if we can skip ahead to slide 24, please. So again, I talked earlier about some proactive steps that the utility took early on in the pandemic to help customers. These are still in place. They're functioning. Customers are benefiting from them. In fact, thousands of customers have benefited from these efforts. And I want to highlight that we're not just utilizing utility resources. We're leveraging everything that we can in behalf of our customers, including federal funding, to offer them these programs to help them from a financial standpoint. Next slide, please. And to further these efforts even more, we are proposing several rule modifications, all of which relate to bill credits. So some of these are already in place and functioning. We're proposing them at this time to formalize them and to make them available in the future as well. For example, right now we're offering emergency relief credits. We've talked about the $5 bill credit. We also offer this COVID-19 bill credit that offers up to $250 for electric bill relief and up to $100 for water bill relief, for a total of $350 if you're both a water and electric customer. And again, we've had many people already participating on this. I had one example 2 weeks ago of a customer that called in who was, he's an Anaheim resident, obviously. He's an electric customer, and his hours have been reduced substantially. He works for an Anaheim hotel, and because they're not serving guests, his hours were reduced, and he just doesn't have the income that he once did. And he called proactively to see what he could do about his utility bill. We offered the COVID-19 electric bill credit, and he will receive $250 in credit on his electric bill. That'll help him and his family as they try to work their way out of this financial situation. One of the other rule proposals that we're bringing forward is to modify an existing bill credit. Right now, we offer $1 per month for customers that sign up for electronic bills and automatic bill payment. And we found that it's not much of an incentive. $1 a month doesn't really mean very much to most people. And so what we're proposing is to change that from a monthly $1 credit to a one-time upfront $10 bill credit. We feel like that will give people more of an incentive to take the action and make that change to electronic bills. And the reason that we want to promote that is because it reduces the utilities costs. Again, coming back to finding ways that we can reduce costs. If we don't have to print and mail a bill, it reduces our costs. Likewise, on the collection side, if it's automatically getting paid from the account that this customer sets up, then they're on-time payments, and we're able to collect in a timely fashion. So we're offering the incentive for customers to try it. If they don't like it, they can switch back, but at least they'll keep the $10 incentive. And then finally, we're proposing a change to the existing bill credit that we give for customers who experience an extended electrical outage that's due to the failure of the utilities equipment. What we've found, even though it doesn't happen very often, fortunately, but when it does, it can have very severe effects on our customers. And we want to be able to offer a bill credit that's actually meaningful to those customers and not a slap in the face. And so this will just give a little bit more flexibility for the utility to offer a credit in those situations where it's warranted. We can go to the next slide, please. I'm on slide 26. So in November, just last month, the board approved the scheduling of a public hearing for January 27th in relation to the proposals that I've spoken about tonight. Now, in compliance with state law, the notice of public hearing regarding the water rates was mailed to all customers and all property owners in Anaheim on December 8th. So just last week, you've probably seen yours. Based on the state's process, if we don't receive a majority protest, meaning 50% or more of the property owners in Anaheim protest those rates will go into effect as proposed. The rule modifications are not subject to the same state law. And because of that, they will go to the city council in February for consideration and approval, pending this board's recommendation to do so. We can go to the next slide. So the public hearing notice that was postmarked last week outlined the proposed water rate actions. The notice will be posted on the city's website on January 27th, on January 7th, and newspaper notices will also be published on 4 different occasions throughout January in both the Anaheim Bulletin and the Orange County Register. The hearing will be held on January 27th, as approved, and then the rule proposals, as I mentioned, would go to City Council in February, pending this board's recommendation. If you'll advance to the final slide, please. So we've covered a lot of ground. I'm about winded, but I appreciate your attention. In summary, though, we're proposing approximately 5.4% rate increase that equates to about $3.44 for a typical residential customer. That will be implemented in 2 phases over 2 months. And the reason we're doing that is to recover the higher cost of water supply and to continue our path, this strategy to cash fund a little bit more of the capital that we need to spend. Along those lines as well, we're making proposals that will benefit our customers and give us the flexibility to offer bill credits when they're warranted, to help our customers in times of need and to incentivize them to take advantage of programs that can benefit them. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jason. Does the board members have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do. I do have a question.
Go ahead, AB.
Okay, for the slide number 3, you mentioned regulatory cost increase from 5% to 26%. How is that happening?
So let me start. So that is reflective, AB, of the change in the mix of water that we now have to take. So as we've discussed, we've had to take our water wells mostly offline, and as a result, we've had to import more water. So importing more water at essentially double the cost of groundwater is the result of change that happened because of regulations. So that slide is representative of that activity that took place and how we responded by shutting off our wells.
Is that normally if you import water, or normally the regulatory costs would be higher, right?
Yes, so on the regulatory costs, because this is an action that the state took, there's a requirement that we participated in, which was we shut off our wells. So the regulation, in response to that regulation, that action has caused us to import more water, and so that's why there's an increase of about $15 million per year currently to address that regulation.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for any other board members or comments? This is John. I have one comment. I think the management group here has done a very good job of decreasing the amount of rate increase that we would require. It also sets up a real challenge over the next several years for us to meet. So I think it's a good balance overall, is my comment.
This is Ramesh. I have a question.
Yes.
So early on when you started, one of the first few slides you had, Jason, had a bar chart showing the cash flow over the next quite a few years with the rate increase, with the delayed rate increase, or one year rate delay, et cetera, et cetera. Did that account for the wells coming back online and the cost reduction?
Yes. So all of those scenarios do account for that. That's one of the factors that didn't change among those scenarios. So we're assuming that all of the wells will be back online by the end of fiscal year 2025. And as Brian mentioned, we're trying to mitigate some of those increases so that when we get to the point where they're all back online, we're not at a point where we're going to drop rates again. We're just trying to make it there. We're trying to just coast and make it there just barely so that we don't have a bunch of fluctuation in our rates up and down. So by the time we get there, we will incur some additional costs for treatment of that groundwater. But again, it's still going to be less expensive than buying the water from that. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I do have just very short questions. Does the rate increase apply to businesses and commercial? Only for residential, as far as I see?
It's our commodity rate for water is universal, irrespective of type of customer. So both businesses, institutions, residents, they will all see the same commodity cost. So it's across the board.
Thank you.
One thing you will notice, though, for the water utility, water costs are not all that impactful to businesses. They don't drive. They aren't. Their business processes aren't driven by water as they are with electricity, so they won't see it nearly as much as they would if there was some kind of electric increase. Electric increases really do hit the bottom line for our businesses. Water increases are more borne by our residents than they are by businesses.
Any other questions?
I got a question and then a comment. So I've seen a lot of talk about this proposed increase on social media sites next door and like Mother Cullen and stuff to that effect. And I absolutely understand the rationale behind the increase. And I think we need to make maybe another mailer of some sort that we can get out and explain in non-legal terms why we are doing this, because I think there's some misconception thinking that, we're raising these rates because there's some sort of budget deficit caused by mismanagement, when in fact, I don't think that people understand that it's because of, an environmental concern. We're trying to mitigate that. So that's a comment based upon the public comments I've been and that have been directed, through different social media sites.
Yes. So I think that's a good point. We are working on a bill insert that has more plain English, because I think the Prop 218 notices, while very legally sound, can be very intimidating to people.
Let's catch up.
Can you hear me, Vince?
Vincent, can you hear us? I can lose him. I actually lost him.
Yep. Can you check that he's still there?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if you can still hear me, Vince, but the bill insert would be the better medium, I think, to get that word out. We also do
I can now.
Okay. All right. Great. So yes. So understanding what you said is very true. The Prop 218 notices, I think that causes some confusion.
Yes.
We have to do that for
Can you hear
legal
me?
purposes. Yes, we can hear you. And so what we'll do is we'll work on a bill insert and other mechanisms to get the word out and help explain things. When people call in after they get the notices, we do explain it to them there as well. So we do find as many ways as we can to communicate. I think the broader issue is, as a society, I think there's just a general distrust whenever there's any increase of any amount for any reason. And so that's just the difficulty that we're running into more and more these days.
Okay, Vincent? Maybe.
Okay, so we'll take that as an action to work on communications.
Sounds good. Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move forward. First, I'll ask for a motion to recommend this proposal, and then we'll do a roll call vote.
This one was just a presentation, and so what will happen
Are there
for the water rates and rules?
approval of the agreement?
Oh, we're on number
That's the
2.
next one.
Yes, we're still on number
Sorry.
2. Yes, no problem. So
We don't
number
need
2,
a vote.
no vote on this item, as next month we will have the actual public hearing.
Right. Okay, no vote needed. We'll move on then to item number 3, approval of an agreement with Metropolitan Water District.
All right, thank you. Michael, would you mind teeing up this item?
Sure. Yeah, this is a three-party agreement between Anaheim, MWD, and Metropolitan Water District of Orange County. They represent most of Orange County to the Metropolitan Water District. And what the agreement allows us to do is, in very wet years in the state, the northern part of the state, or in the Colorado River Basin, it allows us to be able to work with the Orange County Water District and our other neighboring agencies and take imported water instead of pumping groundwater. So in normal years, we pump a lot of groundwater and take a little bit of imported water. In wet years, what we want to do is they have a program that they will allow us to move that excess water from Northern California or the Colorado River into our Orange County groundwater basin by us not pumping groundwater and in lieu of taking imported water. And so this agreement, what it does, it allows for the accounting of that transaction for us to not pay any more water here in Anaheim. Our customers, the utility won't pay any more water than if we had pumped groundwater, which is, as Duke mentioned, about half the cost of the imported water. So this allows us to do the accounting transactions that allows us to get reimbursed for that additional cost of the imported water that we would be taking during those wet years. So it's cost neutral to the city, and the credit for that water gets transferred over to the groundwater basin to Orange County Water District. I'll take any questions if anyone has them.
So one of the questions may be, well, why are we doing this now? There's not a lot of rain going on today or this so far this season, and the reason why is we're trying to set this up for a long term. So this gives us the ability through 2027 to take advantage of any wet years in over the next 7 years, to be able to take advantage of, like Michael said, in a very cost beneficial way, to take imported water and pay for it as if it was groundwater, essentially is what it is.
Thank you, Duke. Does anybody have any questions? Any board member? Hearing none, I would like to request a motion for an approval of this agreement with Metropolitan Water District, and then a second, and then we will take a roll call vote. So do I have a motion?
I motion.
All motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Peggy, roll call vote.
To confirm, the motion was made from Board Member Guyona and a second from Board Member Abdul Rahman. This is a roll call vote for item number 3. Board Member Abdul Rahman,
Aye.
Board Member Baroldi, Board Member Baroldi,
Aye.
Board Member Bala,
Aye.
Board Member Guyona,
Aye.
Board Member Showalter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Seymour.
Aye.
The vote is 6 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent, not present. Motion carries.
Okay, let's move on to item number 4, approval of an agreement with Hinkles and McCoy.
Okay, Janet, do you want to tee this one up?
Sure, thank you, Dooku, and Vice Chair Seymour and board members. Tonight, we are requesting the approval of the board of an agreement for inspection services for our underground and our surface mounted equipment. The agreement between us and the firm Hinkles and McCoy. So this is equipment like our underground vaults, our transformers that sit on concrete pads or cabinets that are in the right of way. And these inspection services give us data to be proactive with maintenance and repairs to reduce our power outages and to maintain a reliable system. So I've asked John Vu, who's our electrical engineer who oversees our inspection program, to provide the board with an overview of why we have a third party inspect our infrastructure and what services they will provide. I also have Fred Barvars, who's our transmission and distribution manager, here to assist with any questions by the board as well. So I'll turn it over to John right now.
Hi, thank you, Janet. Thank you, board. I would like to give the board a little context regarding the utility electric system inspection program as they consider approval of this agreement. Can we move on to slide 2? So our electric system inspection program is a comprehensive assessment of all our electrical assets. This helps us to proactively identify and correct equipment conditions before they affect reliability of electric service to all our customers. Our inspections adopt standards used by other California utilities, and it provides us a basis for our electric equipment maintenance and upgrade projects. We patrol our overhead lines annually for any signs of obvious degradation and do more formal up-close inspections as shown on the chart. As you can see, the underground equipment are inspected on a more frequent basis, mainly because all the equipment is below surface, so signs for degradation is it's not readily visible. So we can move on to slide 3. So we have a variety of different equipment that makes up our local distribution system. We've been undergrounding our overhead equipment since 1990, but we've been in existence for over 100 years. And we have underground structures and equipment that have been in service for 40 years or more. As we convert 5 miles of overhead into underground systems each year, we add that to our underground facilities. These underground systems are generally located along major arterials, which include all our backbone systems to serve all our customers. The new underground systems include automation, monitoring capabilities, spare conduits to provide the ability to operate and maintain the electric system in a reliable manner. So the photo is of a switch installed in the early 90s, which was reaching end of life. Switches like these provide us the ability to sectionalize the system to reduce outage impacts, as well as providing us the ability to reroute power during outages. They use non-volatile gas for insulation, but we are now installing a different type of switch for new installations that uses no gas whatsoever. That's mainly because through inspections, we've been finding that maintaining gas switches can be very difficult over a 30-year lifespan, especially in harsh environments. If we can move on to slide 4. So I mentioned the harsh environments, and I heard a few photos of what our underground equipment must survive. The photo shows that vaults are subject to frequent water intrusions from storms, landscape irrigations. And so what we've done is implemented a new type of sump pump, which also includes an oil sensor. So for example, if someone were to pour out used motor oil and it finds their way into our vaults, the pumps won't operate and they would not pump into our storm drains. In those circumstances, we would call out vector trucks to collect contaminated water and dispose of it in a proper manner. So, if slide 5, please. So, underground systems encounter a wide variety of hazards. Our goal is to try to get to equipment before there's an outage. However, with over 8,600 electrical assets, outages do result from weather, equipment issues, windstorms, or all sorts of animal issues. We found anywhere from beehives, rats, possums, and living in our underground structures and electrical equipment. So, slide 6.
I do have a question, a quick question.
Mhm.
The sump pump, where is it going to deliver the water? To the stormwater drainage, or they have a special place to put
The sump pump would pump directly into the storm drains.
So AB, just real quickly, the sump pump, if there is no oil detected, then it would pump directly into the drain essentially, and it would just flow down the curb and gutter like any other irrigation or storm water. If there's a sensing of any oil, then we can't do that for regulatory purposes, and so the sump pump would not do that. We'd eventually find that there's water in the vaults, and then we'd call out a vector truck to pump it out manually.
Okay, I think that's the right way. Thank you.
So of our 8,600 assets we've inspected during our last cycle that ended in 2017, we categorized all of them using the same terminology as state inspection programs. Level 1, meaning it's an item that needs to be repaired or replaced soon. Level 2, meaning we need to monitor and replace if the condition gets worse. And level 3 means the equipment is in good working conditions. Engineering and field staff generally work very closely together on these projects alongside with the contractors who conduct these inspections. And we utilize our field staff's expertise to validate and verify all conditions and prioritize any immediate actions that are required. Slide 7. A good example of customer benefit from the inspection program is identification and replacement of over 500 protective covers for underground electrical equipment, as well as repairs of 19 concrete tops, which helps to prevent trip hazards for residents, as you can see from the photos. Moving on to slide 8. So inspections are a key contributor to identifying any capital project needs. Replacements of our electrical equipment helps to reduce unplanned outages due to equipments that are nearing end of life, with new equipment that are projected to last another 30 years. Newer technology with smaller footprints gives us more flexibility to expand. Remote automation enables for a faster power restoration during outages. Move on to slide 9. Well, in previous inspection cycles, a lot of the data was stored in spreadsheets and everything was manual retrievals. Now we're incorporating all the data and information into our GIS system, where everything can be readily accessed by engineers, field crews, as well as operations to pull up data and equipment information. Next slide. So we're actually able to zoom in geographically and drill into our assets and pull up information from our last inspection, all the data from our last inspection, as well as photos from our falls and everything along with that, without having the need to call out crews to open up high voltage equipment or set up traffic controls for our manholes. And the next slide. With all our information centrally located like this, we can run queries for, say, all Paramount transformers that reported as condition 2, as seen on the slide. This helps us to generate reports very seamlessly, which not only helps in the operation and maintenance of these equipment, it helps a great tool for our engineers to, as they design and plan for new customers or replacement projects that are proposed. Slide 10. So before you tonight is a recommendation to award a professional service agreement to Hinkles and McCoy. They were one of 8 respondents evaluated in accordance with City Council Policy 4.1 that includes criteria such as ability to perform services, qualifications of personnel, and cost. Hinkles has performed these inspection services for us in the past and has an experience with large agencies such as Edison and San Diego Gas and Electric. One of Hinkles' key proposed elements here is that they utilize electronic data capture system through tablets that take photos as well as recording all the data, which helps to reduce and streamlines the entire inspection process, which also works to migrate perfectly into our GIS system. Also, Hinkles was the lowest cost proposed at $3.86 million. I might note here too on the handouts, it might say 3.6, but the correct number is 3.86 million. And to the final slide. Yeah. So the inspection program has been a valuable tool that proactively identifies equipment and structures in need of repair and replacement. With our customers' growing dependence on high reliability, especially now during the pandemic, we look forward to improving our service levels. And with that, I'm happy to address any questions from the board.
And just one quick comment too, John. The inspection services is going to last. It's over a 2-year period. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
Hearing none, then we'll move on toward a motion.
Yes.
And a vote. The vote will be by roll call as before. So I have a motion. Do I have a motion to approve this recommendation?
I move the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Very good. Okay, Peggy.
I
roll call.
second.
This is the roll call vote for item number 4. Motion made by Board Member Bala and a second by Board Member Abdul-Rahman. Board Member Abdul-Rahman?
Aye.
Board Member Baraldi? Board Member Baraldi?
Aye.
Board Member Bala?
Aye.
Board Member Gaona?
Aye.
Board Member Showalter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Seymour?
Aye.
The vote is 6 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent not present. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, approval of a license agreement with the Orange County Transportation Authority.
Okay, Michael, this is for one of your projects.
Yeah, the Orange County Transportation Authority is adding an additional rail line through Anaheim, and part of that they need to widen the rails that in the street where we cross them with our pipelines. We have pipelines in the street that cross underneath the railways, and as they added an additional track, it requires us to modify our pipeline because the load from the train on those tracks would crush our pipeline unless we had it designed properly with a casing pipe around our water line. So we're in the process of designing that at these different crossings. And the one crossing on Tustin Avenue, just north of La Palma, we need to do that, and we need to be able to put a new pipeline in and relocate it adjacent to the existing pipeline. And we'll have it in a new casing. And by doing that, we have to cross underneath their right-of-ways. They own the land underneath the railroad tracks in that case. And so by doing that, we need to get a license agreement from them to allow us to have that water line and that casing pipe underneath their property on Tustin Avenue. So that's what this agreement is for. They've been kind enough to waive their typical license fee. They usually charge people. If we were doing our project on our own and wanted to cross underneath there, they would charge us tens of thousands of dollars for the license fee. They're charging us just $1,500 for the inspection and the permitting for that license fee is what they're doing. So this is a $1,500 license fee that we will have to pay to them. I will answer any questions.
Does any board member have a question of Michael? Hearing none, I would like to ask for a motion to approve this particular project.
I move it.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Peggy, roll call vote.
This is a roll call vote for item number 5. Motion made by Board Member Bala and a second made by Board Member Guyona. Board Member Abdulrahman?
Aye.
Board Member Baraldi?
Aye.
Board Member Bala?
Aye.
Board Member Guyona?
Aye.
Board Member Showalter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Seymour?
Aye.
The vote is 6 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent not present. Motion carries.
Thank you. Let's move on to item number 6, update on electrical system issues.
Janet.
Okay, thanks all. So I just wanted to give a quick update. To date, this month, we've had a couple of red flag warnings, and we've also had a pretty big wind event that occurred the beginning of this month on the 3rd. And I'm happy to report that we did it. We had, the system held up well. We did have 2 outages that lasted between 2 and 3 hours, affected 58 customers. For that duration of time. They were circuit outages caused by the wind, but we did fare pretty well as compared to some of our surrounding utilities. So I was happy to see that. We are also preparing for another event this weekend, and so we will keep our protocols for fire mitigation and red flag warnings to date and implement those as they're needed. And then as we enter into the holidays, the electric division has been hit pretty hard from the cost-cutting measures of the separation package. And we do have, which leads to vacancies. And we've also had a crew out due to some health conditions. So we are making plans and preparing to have the backup that we need going into the holidays. And we will have staff on standby, ready to deal with any electric issues. We pretty much prepare for this yearly. And so I wanted to just remind the board to be safe over the holidays. We tend to see an increased amount of vehicular accidents running into the infrastructure and whatnot. And so, again, be safe out there. And I do hope you all enjoy your holidays and have a very happy new year. And like I said, we will do everything we can to keep the lights on. So again, enjoy your holidays. And that's all I have for updates.
Thank you, Janet. Any questions? Any questions from our board members?
No, just thank you, Jen, for that update and for your good wishes. Same to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramesh.
Thank you. Let's move on to item number 7, update on water system issues.
Michael?
Yeah, yes. The first thing we have is the water supply dashboard that's up on the screen, and you should also have in your packet. As you can see at the top there, our water storage levels are still very strong. These are especially the ones regionally in Northern California and on the Colorado River Basin. But what you can see in the bottom middle dashboard is you can see how dry we are, not only in Orange County, but also in Northern California and the Colorado River Basin. So those are 3 areas where we get water here into Anaheim. So we're really paying attention particularly to Northern California, the Colorado River Basin, as those areas look like they're going to stay dry for a period of time. And if we, after last year, we continue to have another dry year, may put us back into drought conditions. So we're paying careful attention to that. You can see on the look ahead map on the right there, that's that dark brown, shows that it's anticipated pretty much our entire watershed is going to stay dry for the next several weeks. So no rain or no significant precipitation or snow in our watershed in both Colorado River Basin and Northern California the next few weeks. And any questions on the water supply? We move on to the next slide. Okay. So on December 5th, we had a very large outage in a residential area near the old Kaiser Hospital off of 91 in Lakeview. It's in a residential area here. You can see that our guys are working on trying to locate where it's at in the street. And we had a hard time with this shutdown because the valves around it weren't working, and they weren't holding the water to allow the guys to get in there and work. There was so much water running through there. So the outage grew very large to about 80 customers. And because it took so long for them to get the shutdown, and there was trouble getting the pipe to the pipeline because the pipeline was very deep underground, the outage lasted for 14 hours, which is much longer than an outage normally would. This was on a Saturday, and so it went well into the night. And so the customers were impacted for over 14 hours with this. We had what we've done with them is we went ahead and gave them a bill credit, a $20 bill credit, and we were mailing that notice out this week to them. But the crew worked really good. We got the crew there on site very quickly, in large part because Melissa Siphon had a community event where many of them were already downtown on Saturday working with her on giving out the gift bags at the community event. And so we were able to they were able to drive over quickly to this job site and get on it. One thing I wanted to mention, like I said, is we learned a lot from this. We had a couple debriefs with our team afterwards to find out how we can communicate with our customers better and also communicate within our teams. We had different teams working on this. We had our team that does the pipeline repair that you see here, and there's actually 6 of them there. There's also 3 people from our water production team because there was a pressure regulating valve down the street that was feeding this area. So we learned how to, talk about communicating better internally, but also with our customers. The information going from the field crews through our website to our customers didn't work as we wanted it to. So we're working on ways to improve that now. One thing I want to note here too is that customer in the back left there in the house, he was directly impacted. The break was right in front of his house. He was he stood there pretty much the entire day and night watching our crews. Really liked it. And matter of fact, when our crew had a trouble with one tool getting onto our valve, our guy was wanting to weld this washer onto the tool. he pulled out, that neighbor there pulled out a welding kit and helped our guy weld this washer onto our tool so he could do his work on the valve. So it was very nice of him. Not only did he watch, but he even helped us by modifying some of our tools. So we went out and delivered him a gift bag earlier this week, and or last Friday rather, and thanked him for his help. The other thing I wanted to mention on our imported water supply, as I mentioned, we're in very dry conditions here in not just Southern California, but where we get our imported water. So the state water project, where we get a lot of our water from, came out with their initial allocation of how much water all the imported water agencies in Southern California will get, and they limit it right now to 10%. So that means that Metropolitan was supposed to get 2 million acre feet of water from Northern California. They're only allowed to get 200,000 acre feet of water from Northern California at this time. So hopefully the weather conditions improve. We get snow up in the northern Sierras, so that that allocation that they've given us so far will improve and keep us out of drought conditions that we may be looking at for next year. But we'll keep you posted. Are there any questions?
Michael, this is John. I have a question. The valves did not work in order to make that shut off earlier. Is that correct? What is our preventative routine on that?
Yeah, so we have 24,000 valves buried throughout the city. Our program is to go around and operate those valves at least once every 3 years. The large, high important valves that are on larger pipelines that are critical, we do those once every year. So, which there's about three or 400. So that's our maintenance, our testing and operating. By operating them, just like your valve on your hose bib of your house, if you've never operated for 10 years, you go turn it and the handle snaps off. So that's why we go out there at least every 3 years, open them, close them, and then if they don't work, we note it in our database and we go back out and repair them. And so we know we have several valves. There's 400 valves that we have identified that need to be replaced, because when we go out and we operate them, the handle broke off of it, or the valve stem broke off of it, or it's not operating functionally. So that's our program that we have. And so the valve that did not work, that required us to go from what would have been a very small number of customers to be shut down to 80 customers that were out of water. That valve was part of that 400 valves that were identified that we know we need to repair. So one of the things we're doing to accelerate that, last year we didn't replace as many valves as we wanted to. Our field crews were shorthanded, and we did not get them out to repair those valves themselves. So what we're doing this year is we're using that new contract, the design build master construction agreement that you guys authorized a couple months ago. And we're going to issue a bunch of valves, probably about 100 valves in that, of those 400 to get replaced very soon. As soon as January, we're going to issue those, so we can accelerate replacing those valves that we know are broken, so that when we go out to these main breaks, we're confident we got good valves.
Thank you. Any other questions of Michael? Hearing none, let's go to number 8, update on finance issues. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and Board. We do not have a dashboard this evening. The month of November is yet to close. This financial accountants and analysts are busily trying to still close the fiscal year and finish up the audit from fiscal 2020. So in January, we'll have a dashboard with both November and December information. Just anecdotally, November did come in quite soft revenue-wise, which has made our revenue for electric about even with budget, where we were trending a little bit up. So expect to see that for November, and I would assume to see the same for December. But the one thing I did want to mention this evening, kind of in line with our presentation on the water rates, I did receive word yesterday from Fitch rating agencies that they have downgraded our water utility from AAA to AA+. They made that move yesterday. This was part of their annual review. Their concerns were obviously revenue softening, increasing costs because of PFAS, increasing capital expenditures because of PFAS, even if they're going to be reimbursed by Orange County Water District. But one of their main concerns was the fact that we were not raising the rates as high as we could, and so investors want us to pull as much money into the system as we possibly can so that they can ensure that there's a robust revenue stream. And unfortunately, that's not the reality of the situation for our community. So we did take that hit. So we are AA+, still a very high rating. Metropolitan Water District is AA+. So there's no shame in AA+, but we did like to say we were a AAA rated water utility. We'll work really hard to get that AAA back. It may take several years. With each downgrade that we've received in the past, it has taken several years for us to claw back up to where we were. But again, this was mainly due to the headwinds that I mentioned before that we're currently facing, that I think we're working pretty diligently to work through with as minimal impact to our customers as we can. From a financial perspective, there's not any impact to our costs. All of our bonds are fixed rate, so they won't change the interest rate on our current bonds. If we're still AA+ in 2023 at our next bond issuance, it'll be a negligible or possibly unnoticeable increase in our interest rate. AAA, AA+ doesn't really have much difference to investors, but it is a badge of honor to be AAA rated. I do understand that. With that, I'm open for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none, let's move on to item number 9, update on power supply issues.
I'm Sean Smith.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Vice Chair and the board. If you open your package to the power supply dashboard and start at the top there, total generation, if you focus on that, you'll see quite a drop from the forecasted generation. And as you scroll down, we talked about the Bowerman outage that went off on October 26th and came back on November 30th. And that accounted for 74% of that 19 gigawatt hour drop. We had negligible increases in conventional generation and also wholesale purchases. If you go further down, you'll see on wholesale sales, we're a little bit above our projected budget. That was due to a little bit higher gas prices. So you'll see for the year, we've had a lot of dispatching from Canyon and other gas units, and we're 30 gigawatt hours ahead of the budget there. If you go to page 2, you'll see that the renewables, we talked about Bowerman, so they did drop a little bit from the previous month, and also gas dropped a little bit, so a couple % on each, and then coal took up that deficit. Then finally, as you go down, you'll see CAISO prices are still fairly soft on our average cost resource type, and so you'll look, and overall it'll show all the portfolio there, costs for each type of resource. With that, I'm opening up to any questions anybody may have.
Any questions for Sean? Hearing none, thank you, Sean. We'll move on to item number 10.
Janice?
Good evening, Vice Chair Seymour and board members. I have just a brief update this month. New bills have already been introduced as part of the legislative 2021-2022 legislative session. This is somewhat unusual, but these are unusual times. And the bills range from the requirements of an all-electric rate for public buildings that goes hand in hand with a prohibition for any gas connections. This is for both investor-owned utilities and publicly owned utilities. And we also have a bill being introduced that provides a little bit of icing on the cake to SB 100, which was passed in 2019, which requires the state to be 100% carbon-free by 2045. This bill adds a new caveat that makes this requirement 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, rather than just an averaging over the year. The impacts to this would be that it would significantly reduce the use of gas generators in the state. To date, no bills have been introduced to memorialize the governor's requirement that 100% of passenger vehicles vehicle sales in California be zero emission by 2035, but I'm sure they're coming. And some good news, no major water bills have been introduced to date, at least not yet. On the safety side, COVID continues to be at the forefront in the issues we're addressing. We submitted comments on the Cal OSHA's emergency regulations that were passed last week. And we're working closely with the city to make sure that those requirements are put in place and that we're following them carefully. The biggest change will be in regard to notifications, and we're trying to make sure that we have the proper wording and the proper processes in place to follow these rules. And that will also incorporate the rules that were passed by the legislature just a month ago, as well as these new emergency rules that were passed last week. With that, are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Number 11, items Vice Secretary Duku.
Okay, thank you. Plan for next month is a water rate public hearing, as we've discussed earlier. So in terms of the board makeup, my understanding at this time is that board appointments would occur on January 26th, which is the Tuesday before the public hearing. And so if that remains true, then I think it would be the expectation that we would retain this current board to conduct the public hearing. And so we would thank the board for their attendance. It will still be virtual because the city council is still holding virtual meetings, and we don't anticipate that there's going to be any changes to that format. So we will conduct it here and then receive emails, of course, and any public comments throughout the time frame as normal. But there will be no physical guests present to make their public comments. They'll just be electronically gathered. So having a full board is incredibly important during these public hearings, and so we look for the board support and on the 27th of January. A couple of other items. We had very significant heat storms over this past year, and we had a number of transformer outages. One of our board members, Ravnesh, experienced one, and he knows how much of an inconvenience it is to have an extended outage. And so we've been working on a transformer replacement program to accelerate the work that we've been doing. And so Janet will have a presentation that explains that program in a little bit more detail. And it actually dovetails very nicely from the inspection program that was approved tonight. The other item we have is we do rebate management a little bit more manually than we'd like. And so we're looking into software systems that would help us automate, gather data, generate reports for all of the efficiency measures that residents, businesses, and our customers get from us, and give us a better way to manage that system. So we're working on that procurement. So those are the three items planned for next month. A couple other things. Peggy, can you show the slide on the face mask design contest? So you received last month or the month before, sorry, but you received these masks from these kids. And so we had the opportunity to recognize the 3 students who did the artwork for these masks. So if you go to the next slide, this is the first student, Yultsin. He's a 4th grader from Jefferson Elementary. He used the theme of Every Drop Counts in terms of water conservation. You can see his mask design above. His family was there. Apparently his younger sister is also an excellent artist, and his teacher was there as well. And they received a good number of the masks and a little goodie bag that included an art kit so that they could do more artwork. Next student is Frida. She's a 5th grader from Orange Grove Elementary, and she used the sustainable future theme. And it's a little hard to read, but it says save energy in the little text box there about her light bulb. And so she was accompanied by her family there in the photo. And our last student was Mark, and he's an 8th grader from Prince of Peace Lutheran. And so he also did a sustainable theme, and you can see his green light bulb and then the windmills below that. And so he was accompanied by his parents and his brother, and his mother actually is a teacher at Anaheim Elementary School District. And And so she knew some of the teachers who were there to support and cheer on their students. So it was a really very small event. We just had the respective students, their families, and some of the teachers and the vice principals attended as well to celebrate with the students. So it's a very nice small event. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is we had a holiday light exchange on December 5th. And so this is what we gave away. So we gave away some holiday lights, some light bulbs, the masks that the students prepared, and then some other goodies in there. Next slide. Just to show you some photos, here's our staff members. Everybody was safe. They had gloves, they had masks, and we had these bags pre-made the week before. You can see the line. There's not a huge line. It was very well organized. So on the left side of this photo are Michael's water team, Waterfield folks, and they were the ones who were there helping to navigate the traffic. And we were able to peel them off of this project as the water main break occurred, and we still had enough folks to help us with traffic control. This is our very own Peggy, who was there helping out. Thank you, Peggy. And some people did not want to directly interface with us, which is completely understandable. And so what they did was they opened up the trunk, or they asked us to put the bags in the back seat, and which we accommodated depending on what they preferred. We collected older holiday lights that we then recycled, and so we did it in a touchless fashion where somebody could just drop it right into a bin. And some people brought their good friends. This is a 2-month-old puppy that this one customer wanted to show us. And we also collected toys. So these were new unwrapped toys that we collected that we're going to distribute to the Adopt a Family program that our community services department manages. And these two lovely young girls donated their Barbie doll toys to this cause, which was very sweet. And we ended up with 189 participants and 100 toys collected for the Adopt a Home. So a big thanks to a couple of the teams. Of course, Michael's guys, that's Art there on the left. He was one of the supervisors and foremen, and he helped to manage the traffic control along with his other guys. Melissa Siphon that you see on the right side there, she helped to orchestrate and organize and coordinate a lot of this effort. And then we also had the community and sustainability team. We had some customer service representatives. And so we had a whole host of folks out there, about 30 or so employees dedicated to serving our customers during these times. So wanted to give kudos to our folks for that. Let's see. I wanted to show a presentation. So last time we showed you a number of retirements that occurred, and this is the second batch of those retirements. So there's we gave plaques to each of the individuals. We had it down at our utility yard. And next slide, we'll start going through these. This is Duke Davidson, very, very seasoned crew scheduler. He's the guys who, whenever there's new customers coming online or if there's a field issue, he's one of the guys who knows this is extremely well. We're going to miss Duke quite a bit. Roman is a senior meter technician. He's got a lot of years. He is wonderful with customers, explains things very well. When we get a high bill complaint, he's one of the folks that goes out there and explains that. He doesn't just say, yes, your meter's working fine. What he does is he walks through and says, well, let's see which appliances might be causing this. And he really does a great job with them. Dave Algarmi, the board may be familiar with Dave. He's our electric operations manager. He's often on the 8th floor overseeing outages, and he has a wealth of knowledge, and we're going to miss him dearly. He is extremely, extremely well-versed in how our electric system works, but he's been working diligently to pass along that information to those who have succeeded him. And then Martha Zapian, customer service representative, 34 years, just a very, very warm and nice person. Tracy Cook, he's our other electric operations manager, and he's got 32 years. So he handled the field side. So the field side would be things like substations, the test technicians that do the protection devices. He also had meter readers and field service representatives, inspectors. So he had quite the full plate. He also did the wildfire mitigation plan along with Janet. David Kramer, customer service rep, and so he handled billing issues, and so he was one of the folks that we have working on big commercial accounts and other billing issues. Dennis Schmidt, the board may recall Dennis Schmidt, he handled the NERC compliance, also emergency response, and so the annual emergency drills that we did, Dennis would be the quarterback for those. Would miss his experience. Vicky Castillo is in our technology development group, and she works on, for example, with our customer information system, the technology behind that, and supports our representatives so that they can help our customers out. She's got a tremendous amount of experience. Danny Mendez is the meter supervisor, and so he would be the ones who order meters, helps with organizing all of those. Another really good person with customers. Steve Lankard, he's with our revenue protection group, and so he would be one of the folks who'd go out and identify if there was any theft or tampering with our electrical water meters. Kwon is an assistant engineer in the water division, and so he did a lot of plan reviews, plan checks for new developments and other water service connections. Paul is a senior water system operator, and so he's up at the Lenane treatment plant. So he would be out there operating the system, the water system. Larry Davis, the board may be familiar with Larry. He's done a tremendous amount of work, especially on the capital side with substations. So starting with, he did Park Substation, Anaheim Substation, Harbor Substation, the Canyon Power Plant. So he's tremendously talented in terms of managing projects, and he will be sorely missed. Lito is another electric meter technician, and he would go along with Roman quite a bit to customers' locations to help them with their issues. Lupi is a system operator, and he is the one who is in the control room when there's outages or other things going on. Al Sheikh is in the water division, and he handles a lot of the reporting, especially there's quite onerous reporting related to during the drought, especially. Al was the one who managed all of those reports. Abby, integrated resources, so she helped with contracts. She was facilitating solar for schools and other types of contractual obligations that we have. Anna Lopez, another customer service rep with quite a few years of experience. Terry Barnes, he would help Steve Lankard, and the two of them would handle revenue protection, so we'll miss both of them. And our very own Lynn, we're going to miss Lynn. I am going to miss Lynn quite a bit. She's been such a tremendous asset and helped me personally and professionally, of course. And so she's been so helpful. She, Peggy, and Ida have really kind of held the floor together in just managing the PUB, agenda items that go to City Council, customer issues, and then she had to handle the rest of us up here on the 11th floor. So congratulations to Lynn. I believe
Lynn is online.
Lynn is on the line, and she wanted to say a few words to the board. Lynn?
Hi, thanks, Nuku. Those are really nice words. Good evening, everyone. Vice Chair Seymour. I just want to thank the board for all the support that you have been providing our utilities. It benefits me not just as an employee, but also as an Anaheim resident. Yes, I am an Anaheim resident for 30 years now. You have been a wonderful board to work with. I wish all of you continued success and happy holidays.
Right, thank
Lynn,
you.
we will all miss you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. So Jason had a slide on his presentation that showed that there were 600 years of experience that we'll be missing as a result of this program. And one of the things that brings me comfort is knowing that these folks are responsible enough that they try to pass along their knowledge to those of us who are remaining. And all of them, all 27 who participated in the program, are like that, trying to explain things so that the next generation could come in and take up the baton in their behalf. And so we will miss them tremendously. There's quite a bit of experience, as you saw there, just the number of years that they've dedicated to the city of Anaheim. And the other thing, Lynn is one of 25% of our employee base utility are actually Anaheim residents. And so they have a vested interest in making sure the utility is successful because they use the power and water. So just wanted to convey our thanks to these employees and our thanks to the board for supporting our employees all throughout the years.
Well, it's a lot of experience that we're losing for sure. And I recognized a lot of faces, and it's going to be a challenge.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
That's all I
Anything else,
have.
Dukin?
No, that's it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, items by board members. Rudy, do you have something you'd like to offer?
I just wanted to wish everybody a happy holidays. Please stay safe, stay at home with your families. Happy holidays, everyone, and happy New Year.
Thank you, Rudy. Ravish?
Wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Stay safe.
Thank you.
In the next year.
Yes, I just want to say that happy retirement for the staff or the people that work with public utility, and also happy holidays to everyone.
Julie?
Still on the line. We're really gonna miss you, and I hope there's some fun stuff in retirement. If you're actually gonna retire or just take a break from work, but we will definitely miss you. Also, just wanted to let everyone know that the office contacted me, and apparently the new District 1 city council member is not really all about picking new people. Maybe he doesn't know that many people, I don't know, but I was asked to if I was interested to go a second term on the utility board, and I said yes. So my name will be up at city council. We'll see if they approve me or not. We'll see what happens. Anyway,
That's good news, Julie.
Thank you,
yeah.
Julie.
That's through 2024, so whew. Yeah, my husband, on the other hand, decided not to re-up on the budget committee. He had enough of that.
Good idea.
Anyway, Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Vincent?
Same. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Retirement. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you in a month.
Terrific. Lastly, myself, I will also wish everyone happy holidays and stay safe. With that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Move a motion.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote.
This is a roll call vote for item number 13. A motion made by board member Abdulrahman and a second made by board member Bala. Board member Abdulrahman?
Aye.
Board member Baraldi?
Aye.
Board member Bala?
Aye.
Board member Guyona?
Aye.
Board member Showalter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Seymour?
Aye.
The vote is 6 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent, not present. Motion carries, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.